I had a really busy 2 weeks that had rum woven within. I was traveling to the East Coast at a bunch of different cities, and I tasted a lot of rum. I went to rum events, rum tastings, rum bars, and I just wanted to share that journey with you while I also sip rum. So yeah, let's dive right in. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Robin from This Blog's Neat. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I love talking about spirits. It'll become apparent very quickly, especially rum. I love making rum. I love talking about how rum is made with anyone who is curious. So today we're going to talk a lot about rum events, rum bars. Now, if you're one of my Patreons, you know all about my most recent travels. You've been kept in the loop of what I've been up to recently. So I do want to give a huge shout out before we get started. Thank you guys so much for helping to support the channel. Now, if you, the viewer, would also like to support the channel and also get behind the scenes exclusive stuff like the rest of my Patreons do, I would be super, super thankful if you joined us over there. I've got a link in the description below. But regardless, even just, liking, subscribing, commenting, watching more of my videos really, really helps to support the channel. So I'd also appreciate if you did that as well. Okay, so let's talk about rum. And we are going to start with the first event that kicked off this 2-week journey. We will start with the Rum Curious Summit, which I actually poured my rum at. This was the very first event where I exhibited. I was one of the sponsors at the Rum Curious Summit. If you're not familiar, this was the first year that they did it. It was down in Long Beach on Memorial Day. And it was insane. There were so many people. I think 664 attendees was the final count. I might be getting that incorrect, but that's what I think. There were a ton of people. It was a constant flux of people at my table, at all the tables near me. It opened at 2 p.m. for VIP and trade, and then 4 p.m. for general admission, and it went all the way until 8. So it was quite a long day for the exhibitors, but again, it was just packed with tons of people. Luckily, I had my friend Mary, thank you, Mary, who was the distiller at Lost Spirits. She was there, she was helping me pour, and she let me take bathroom breaks and things like that, and was letting me rest my voice a little bit during the event. So if you're watching this and you were there at the event, let me know what you thought about it. Anyways, I poured all 3 of my rums. I poured baseline, variable dunderclap, and variable tailspin. Now you could taste them blind. You could choose to taste them blind, or you could choose to taste them not blind, right? Know exactly what's in your glass when you're tasting it. I thought tasting them blind was a really fun option, and if you correctly guessed which rum was in which bottle, if you correctly guessed all 3 of them, you got to take home a little wee Rum et al. Glencairn right here. And only 10 people correctly guessed all 3 rums out of 45 people. So yeah, blind tasting is extremely humbling, and it's one of my favorite ways to taste rum, or any spirit for that matter. Now, during the VIP portion / trade portion, I had out my rums also at 75% ABV, but those got put under the table once general admission came through. I also had out another special rum that I'll talk about in a little bit for people to sample. But overall, it was a really cool event. It was really cool to see how many people were excited to taste my rums and excited to be there. Now, most of you know who my distributors are. Out here, it's Superlative Spirits, aka Ryan Gilberti. And over on the East Coast, it is Raising Glasses. This is Lori and John. And this was my first time meeting Lori and John in person. They came out for the Rum Curious Summit. And so in honor of that, I am going to be tasting one of their bottlings and give you my tasting notes. This is actually a California exclusive. This is the Jablesse. It's a 21-year-old Trinidad rum. So this is actually the perfect combination of my 2 distributors because it's also Superlative Spirits distributed by them. So this rum was distilled in 2003 at Trinidad Distillers. The marque is TML. Does anyone know what that actually stands for? If you do, let me know. But I do know it's fermented from molasses and column distilled and then aged for 15 years in Trinidad and 6 years in the UK. And it is bottled at 61.4% ABV. So from the first time I tried this, there's this distinctive note that keeps standing out to me. And every time I talk to someone who has tried this, I ask them if they get it. But the first thing I get is so much Thai basil. There's so much Thai basil on the nose. I get that every time I pour this. There's honey and toffee with some like pink peppercorns, mint, which feels a little bit like Thai basil adjacent, a little lemongrass. It's got this like dusty wood, almost like a cabinet, dusty cabinet thing with some wax. There's a little bit of a floral quality, and there's like a fruit in the distance. Maybe it's mango. A ton of the Thai basil on the palate. So this is my first sip of the day. So there is a little bit of heat, and it does end up building in a nice creamy viscosity. There's some bitter caramel in here. Again, that Thai basil just keeps like whooshing in. There's some peppercorns that are like almost like Sichuan peppercorns. There's black tea and a little light fruitiness. And again, like similar to the nose, I'm having a little bit of a hard time kind of pinpointing what fruit that is. So we'll say mixed fruits on the palate as well. But this is delightful. If you live in California, definitely grab yourself a bottle of this if it's still available. Really, really tasty stuff. Okay, the day after the Rum Curious Summit, I did a tasting also with my distributors. So with Lori and John of Raising Glasses and Ryan from Superlative Spirits, we did a tasting for the Caña Rum Society, which was really, really fun. Everyone got to taste some really, really incredible rums. Some of the rums from Raising Glasses, for instance, they brought their 27-year-old Caroni, however you pronounce it. And actually, my rums followed that 27-year-old Caroni, which I thought was a little bit unfair. But if you haven't been to Caña, it is an amazing rum bar. You should definitely check them out. They're in downtown LA. And their rum society includes like a whole bunch of really knowledgeable people that are also super welcoming. And I believe they meet every single Tuesday, which is really cool. That event was really fun. I really like the kind of small format tasting space because I'm able to really connect with the people who are there, and they're able to ask any and all questions that they might want answered. So yeah, I hope to do a lot more of these like small format tastings in the future. If you're part of a rum club or any type of spirits club and you'd be interested in having me come and do a tasting, please reach out, let me know. I'd be really excited to do that. Anyways, at Caña, I poured both baseline and variable tailspin. Again, we had a ton of rums to choose from, so I only was able to pick two. However, I did have a bonus rum after the tasting for anyone who still wanted some more rum. And this was the secret rum that I mentioned that I had poured at the Rum Curious Summit for VIP and trade. This is a Queen Share rum. This is not the official label that I actually distilled for Raising Glasses. So keep an eye out for that. They will hopefully be bottling that in the next month or so. But a Queen Share is simply just redistilled distillation cuts that didn't make it into the original spirit, if that makes sense. So when distilling baseline, variable dunderclap, variable tailspin, I take heads cuts and I take tails cuts, and everything in between is the hearts cut, and that's what I end up bottling. Now, there's still a lot of really, really wonderful flavors in the heads and tails, and every distillery kind of deals with their heads and tails differently. Some exclusively use the heads just for cleaning purposes and everything like that. But again, my heads contain a lot of wonderful flavors and aromas. So for some distillers, their queen share is just redistilling the tails. For me, I redistilled both the heads and the tails. And I also added dunder into the still to proof it down to a safe strength for distillation. Now, my options were to dilute it down with water or dilute it down with dunder. And I think diluting it down with dunder is the obvious thing. This is similar to what I did for tailspin. So yeah, anyways, that is the queen share that, again, I distilled for raising glasses. It's at 71.2%. And let's give it a taste. This is really fun. Out of my 3 rums, right, baseline, dunderclap, and tailspin, I think this is most closely resembles tailspin, but it's still super unique. It's custardy, and there's also like magnolias, banana pudding with vanilla wafers in here, and a tiny bit of stinky feet. There's some grape candies and some mint. I'm getting ketchup and brioche buns. Maybe the smallest hint of like grandma soap. There's also something grassy in here, like, yeah, grass. There's also banana peppers. I'm getting Laffy Taffy. I don't know what kind, but general fruity Laffy Taffy. Some strawberry jam. This is really oily. There's definitely more heat, than the Jablesse that I just tasted. But again, it's 71.2%. But there's a lot of fruits in here. There's juicy figs and juicy fruit gum. And then there's cloves, allspice, ginger, like almost like a pickled ginger. And there's like citrus plus eucalyptus and some oregano too. Yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out. And as my Patreons know, I'm very much an advocate for, if you're a home distiller, definitely do your queen share runs. Okay, after that, I was off to the East Coast, and my first stop was the Boston area for my cousin's wedding. Shout out to Jack and Yutha. Congratulations, guys. And while I was in Boston, I had a quick moment to stop at Shore Leave, which is a tiki bar in the South End. It's like in this basement of what looks like a new apartment building complex type thing. They had a really, really impressive rum selection, and they have more privateer bottles than I even knew existed. Now, I wish I was able to sample a whole bunch of them, but I only had time for a cocktail. And after browsing the menu, I went with their coffee Mai Tai, which I thought was really tasty. I thought it was really nice. Now, their coffee Mai Tai replaced the orange curacao with coffee liqueur, so Mr. Black, and they used a blend of unaged privateer as well as rum JM Epi's Creole as a split base for their rum base. It was really good. I feel like the coffee liqueur was really prominent, and that like it may have benefited from some funky high ester, because that's usually what I think of when I think of Mai Tais. Nonetheless, I enjoyed it, and next time I'm in Boston, I'm definitely going back. I would highly recommend checking out Shore Leave. So because I didn't taste any rums while I was at Shore Leave, but I do want to taste something to commemorate that I was there as a part of this whole video, I actually did something uncharacteristic, and I'm going to be tasting a cocktail. Making a cocktail while you're sitting is really weird. I should be garnishing this with some mint. Anyways, I don't normally make cocktails. And I was trying to figure out every way I could avoid making a cocktail well, this is not exactly what I tasted. I tasted a coffee Mai Tai at Shore Leave. And the other day, Jerry made me a Mai Tai with variable tailspin. And I was drinking it out of a coffee mug, and I thought, I wonder how this would taste with some coffee liqueur instead. So I've made a mini coffee Mai Tai here. Okay, so in it, we've got variable tailspin, as well as orgeat, as well as fresh lime juice. And then in place of the orange curacao, I did Mr. Black, like matched up the recipe exactly. And I tasted it. So I mixed it up first and then just added the ice and shook it. But before the video started, I mixed it all together, and I actually really liked how it tasted warm. Now that it's cold, I think it's really good, but I think there's something a little disjointed about it, and it's the coffee liqueur. But I weirdly really liked it warm. Now, again, this did not add any Jamaican funk that I was looking for, but I think the coffee liqueur and tailspin does pair really nicely together. So if you have any cocktail suggestions using a little bit of coffee liqueur, I don't know, maybe it's a warm one, maybe an espresso martini or something. I have no idea. This is why I don't do cocktails. I'm not great at cocktail stuff, but that's really nice. Again, go check out the Shore Leave. So after Boston, I headed south to DC, and when in DC, of course, you have to stop at the Green Zone. Shout out to Chris, who owns the Green Zone, who sat with me for a couple hours and chatted. They have so many phenomenal rums, so much so that I was pretty overwhelmed and was trying to decide which one to start with. And it was suggested that I start with their Zombie while I mulled it over, which is made with Iraq, which is a licorice spirit. And zombies are notoriously very strong. But I did eventually get to trying some really amazing rums. I tried the St. James 2006. It's a 15-year-old rum agricole. This is part of the Magnum Series #1. I tried Holmes Key Jamaica Diamond H 2014, which was a private barrel select for the Green Zone. And I also tried the Habitation Velier Hampden. That's a blend of L Rock, Diamond H, and LFCH. And I'm pretty sure that's only in the Northeast, and that was incredible. I should have brought a bottle home with me, but I didn't. But yeah, they have a bunch of, I think I tried some other things as well and a couple more cocktails. So I definitely recommend checking out the Green Zone. They have a bunch of single barrels of their own, and one of them, which I will be trying, is their Alambique Serrano. This is called Zona Verde. It's single cask number 19. There are only 141 bottles. This is bottled at 64.9% ABV. So this is made using fresh cane juice from the Java varietal. It is fermented in pine vats with ambient yeast, which I think just means wild fermented. It's distilled by Rommel Crassel in February 2022 using copper alembic pot stills. It was aged for 21 months in virgin French oak casks in a dry climate. There's a 10% angel share, and it was bottled December 2023. As I said, there's only 141 bottles, and it's at 64.9%. Okay, so first thing I get is gingerbread cookies. So much so. But it's also herbal, like thyme. There's anise and like vanilla whipped cream. No, it could be more like royal icing, like full gingerbread cookie house. There's something a little medicinal. It's rubber gloves. Wow, so much of that ginger comes forward. This is super silky. There's dates, and it's like green bell peppers soaked in honey with pickled ginger and candied ginger. There's that somewhat medicinal thing. It's not really coming across as like the rubber gloves. There's black pepper, light roasted coffee, mulch, and like rose branches in that mulch. Really fun. Go visit the Green Zone in DC. Okay, so after DC, I headed up to New York. Actually, I headed up to Jersey first and had more Mai Tais. And then I headed to New York for New York Rum Fest. Rum Fest is always fun. And there are always so many brands. I got to see a lot of familiar faces, meet some new people, see some brands I had never seen before there. Now, some of the familiar faces that were there were Kevin and Aaron from Striped Lion. If you haven't heard of Striped Lion, they are a rum distillery that's in Woodbury, New Jersey, just outside of Philly. And I went and visited them back in January, so it was nice to see them again. They're no longer doing tours at their distillery or doing any tastings, I don't believe. However, you're able to find their rums throughout New Jersey, New York, maybe some spots in San Fran and Florida. But yeah, so I'm going to be tasting their Overproof rum. So this is their unaged rum made from molasses. It's pot distilled, double pot distilled, I believe. And if I'm remembering correctly, Kevin uses a few different yeast strains that he blends together for his rums. But this is at 60% ABV. Funny that this is the lowest proof thing I've tasted so far, besides the cocktail. This is nice. There's custard and caramel and vanilla. Just a little hint of like nail polish remover. There's Werther's Original. There's some juicy fruit. I'm getting a little fruitiness in here. And a little raisin. This is nice. It's nice and creamy. Low heat, which again, this is the lowest thing I've tasted so far. It's sweet, like brown sugary, that turns into caramel. Yeah, there's a lot of caramel. Our mouth feels really nice. There's some pepper as well. It's a little bit floral, and there's like a light, bright, like general, like citrus note in here as well. Okay, last but certainly not least, I stayed in New York for an event that I was really, really, really excited for. As this dilutes down, it tastes a lot more balanced. It's really nice. Okay, so Rum Fest was on Saturday. Monday was the event that I was most excited about. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, I think, was Bar Convent in Brooklyn. But I didn't even stay for Bar Convent. I stuck around in New York after Rum Fest because I wanted to go to this event on Monday. This was the collaboration event, trade-only tasting, put on by PM Spirits and La Maison and Velier. They called it the Remix. It was at PM Spirits warehouse, and my gosh, the rums that were there were absolutely incredible. Like, here's the list. Not that you can read that. Here, let me give you a slideshow of some pictures that I took. I forgot to take pictures of a lot of the amazing stuff that they had. The problem with this tasting is that all the spirits that they have, it's not just rum. I just want to taste anything and everything that they have in there because I know the caliber of the spirits that they have in that warehouse. And it's really hard to do that without your tongue going numb. It's also really hard to remember any tasting notes unless you write them down, and I really didn't write anything down. But with that, I'm going to taste something from Hampden. I'm going to taste their new release called the Maverick. This is an exclusive rum that was released and was crafted by Christelle and Matthew in honor of their son named Maverick. This rum is a blend of 50% HGML from 2018, 40% LFCH from 2020, and 10% C Diamond H from 2021. And I believe they were all aged in ex-bourbon barrels, and it's bottled at 59%. So this is now officially the lowest strength spirit that I've tasted today. This is so bright and fruity. There's stinky feet. There's overripe pineapples, other assorted fruits as well. There's grass and wet wood. I'm getting some like tree sap too to throw in with that wood. Honeysuckle, marzipan, a little bit of nail salon, some Granny Smith apples, and vanilla. Super creamy. Instantly, just a huge hit of fruit. These are overripe fruits. All of them are overripe, very much fermented. There's pineapples, there's bananas. There's tons of spices in here too. There's allspice and clove and some dried like ground ginger. And I'm also getting a really interesting note. There is like roasted nuts, like roasted macadamia nuts and pistachios. That's super interesting. There's a sweet grassy finish as well with some peppercorns, some cherries, and some mulch. I do love Hampden. Okay, with that, this has been a very long video, and hopefully I have edited it down to something that's not quite as long. This was a fun video format for me, letting you know what I was up to over the last 2 weeks. Drinking rum, tasting rum, going to rum events throughout my travels. During that time, it was pretty hard for me to squeeze in any videos or any editing of videos, so this is why I opted for this format for this video. But yeah, just wanted to fill you guys in on what I've been up to for the last couple of weeks. And yeah, let me know what you thought and if you have any questions at all.